Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. I have the privilege of having Mr. Matthew Throop on. How you doing, my brother?
Good, man. Glad to be on here.
Yeah, man. So Matt is a multifamily investor. He is now a cannabis entrepreneur, and he lives in the middle of nowhere. We're not really sure. He is hiding from the government and all the things available, the resources to find him. No, he's in Upper Michigan.
In a bubble.
In a bubble.
I live in a bubble.
So, you can get us started wherever you want. I think it's funny because you mentioned it before we started that, and I, pun intended, that me and you kind of constructed our lives together as we met, because I don't think we were in a good place with our current careers when we both met and are in the mastermind. And I remember many of phone calls just venting about where we were, right? Right?
It's true, dude. And I've been listening, dude, since you started your podcast. And I mean, I listen to your guests. I'm very happy to be a guest on here. But I feel like what I've seen a shift, like with you. I mean, since we started our relationship, what was it, almost probably 2 years ago. But yeah, dude, I mean, same thing with you. Like I was living in Minneapolis, and I was just telling you, like, dude, I can't even imagine being there right now and living in there and doing and having the job that I had and still being there right now compared to when I made the shift. Like I made the shift about a year ago. And so, yeah, kind of like long story short, I was living in Minneapolis. I'd moved there. I mean, I can probably go into the weeds on this, but I was living in Colorado for 8 years, and I had my first daughter out there. And we kind of had developed a real life. My wife and I, we developed a real life out there. And we were like, we had our first kid, let's move back east and be close to family. And I'd always wanted to try Minneapolis out. I heard good things, but we moved there, and it was like thing after thing. And, you can blame stuff or whatever. And, it's like you find things in your mind that you want to blame. Everybody can do that. But like, it just seemed to like spiral out of control, that things just weren't fitting in. And I mean, there's all sorts of things that happened, and like 6 months in, after living there, I was like, my wife and I were just not happy. And it's really scary when you decide to make the actual shift. And, I think that's one thing that's, fantastic about your podcast. It's Construct Your Life. And, dude, I think there's a lot of people that are really afraid just to do what they want with their life. And I mean, at some point you have to kind of develop a plan and develop what you want to do if you're not happy with what you've got going on. And I freaking did that. Like I took 6 months and said, like, I don't want to be here. I took 6 months and basically developed it and said, I want to be here. I created a vision. I created the steps. Not every step works out as you anticipate, but dude, I quit like 100K plus 100,000 plus job in Minneapolis, and, a comfortable way of life. But just being in traffic every day, working for a place that my values were not aligned with. And I just went and I developed it. I said, I'm going to go do this. And we moved back to Northern Michigan. And dude, we were texting about this the other day. I went back to Northern Michigan. I'd bought a house for $40,000. I was living in my mother-in-law's house across the street. Oddly enough, I'll tell you more about that with the cannabis entrepreneur journey. And I rebuilt this house, and we now Airbnb it, which like all my investments I look at, I'm like, how do I create cash from this? And I rebuilt this house, and I basically developed a 6-pack at the end of the summer because I lost probably 35 pounds because I left a toxic situation, a situation that wasn't aligned with me. I left a toxic situation with my job that I was basically stress eating every day. I went down to the fancy coffee shop and got a delicious Americano and blueberry muffin pretty much every day. And I'm pretty sure that's where the 35 pounds went away from, is those blueberry muffins. But man, I went all in right there. But that's what happened the last year. And when you figure out how to do that, it's probably more in your mind, and you can kind of construct your life and do what you want with your life and where you want to go with it. It's freaking power, man. It's freaking power. And I'm in a place now that we can talk about that's fun.
No, I mean, I think what's amazing about that is that the shift in the movement was not attached to a dollar amount. It was attached to a feeling and a lifestyle, right? And I think that's where people get messed up in, because oh, well, I worked forever to get to this position and now I'm finally making this money. Well, that's great. But like, are you actually like happy with the lifestyle that you're living? And the thing is like, there's people that love to live in Manhattan, like power to you. Like I like a little bit of both. I like a little city. I like a little country, and I'll have both. And I think not that it wasn't scary and not that it wasn't hard, but I think that's one of the reasons it worked out for you, because it wasn't tied to a dollar amount that you were trying to get to. It was more for your family and what you wanted for yourself.
It's definitely scary. I mean, right? Because, as an investor, you have to have a bit of a financial mind. And, I looked at the cash flow we were pulling in from investments. I looked at our savings, and yeah, like I was stacking cash away with my job, but it was definitely scary. It took me some time to work through that in my mind. I'm like, listen, it's like I had a conversation for like 6 months with my mind. I'm like, I gotta get comfortable with this. And I mean, dude, I can like one of the other things that I do, and I would highly suggest to your guests, and I've talked to my close friends about it, is, dude, I journal probably like, I mean, almost every day. Especially like last year, I was journaling every day. And once you have like 2 and 3 kids, like your schedule gets thrown for a loop. But I'm still able to journal at least, I could do it every day if I wanted to. I just make the time, but it's a habit for me now. Mm-hmm. I developed it like 8 years ago, and I journal every day. And what's cool is I get to like, this is the cool thing about journal. It's like a reflection. It's like a lessons learned. And I get to look back, like every time I journal, I almost like look back a year. I'm like, what was I doing a year ago at this time? And I can look back and I find out, I'm like, oh man, that's the headspace I was in. Oh, that's what was going on. And, I look back even now into those journal entries from a year ago. I'm like, dang, dude, like you reflect and you learn. So I don't know where I was going with this, probably to encourage people to journal, but it's just like a really great piece on how to learn from yourself on what steps you want to take to go in the direction you want to go.
I think what's interesting as I'm sitting here and we're having this conversation, because we know each other pretty well, and we know each other from that time, and I think you would agree the same thing. The two people that are talking on this podcast are two totally different human beings. Like we are two totally different people than we were a year ago. Like me and you were both upset, angry, not happy with our jobs, overweight.
I remember I was calling you. Am I driving to work? I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do, man? This is stupid.
Yeah, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? And what people have to understand is like, it's not fucking roses. Like the work that I've had to do to get sober, the work I've had to do to work out 2, 3, 4 in the morning, it's not easy and it's not fun. But on the other side of all that is what you're seeing right now, guys. You're seeing people that are more in line with their core values on who they are, and the money and stuff is a binary situation, because he's a better father, he's a better husband. Yeah, he's a better human in general, because he's not angry every day driving into a job he doesn't want to be at.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I still get angry. It's like I don't never yell at my kids and freak out.
You do have young kids, but I said more calm. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
So how many units currently do you have invested in right at the moment?
So how are we with our connection?
We're good.
We're good. Let's do this.
We're good. We got it.
Okay. So, onto the multifamily piece. So that's definitely, that's a fun kind of story to talk about. And like when I get into the weeds of this, some people are like they look at me and they're like, how did you do that? And I'm like,
let's go the weeds. I like this. This is what people need to hear. The investing stuff. Seriously.
Yeah. So it was funny. Like probably a first story that I'll talk about this is I remember that multifamily event we were both at in Michigan. And I had a guy come up to me at that event and I told him, I was like, yeah, I've got like 30 some units. He was like, 30 units? He's like, you must be a net millionaire. Or no, he goes, are you an accredited investor? I was like, I don't know, what's an accredited investor? And one more that I've learned, I'm like, oh, okay, now I know what an accredited investor is. He's like, so you must be a net millionaire. I'm like, no. He's like, we have 30 units. And I looked at him like, what do you think? He's like, well, you have 30 units. I said, not everything is as it seems.
Yeah.
His mind was kind of blown. But it's like, dude, I think sometimes you get to a place and people are like, wow. And there's definitely a journey along with it. But like so one of the first things I did, and everybody I talked to, if they want to like kind of dig into my mind, I'm like, dude, read books. Like I'll give you 2 books that have changed my life. The Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's kind of a top one on everybody's list. And one of the other books, if you talk to me, I'm a huge Tony Robbins guy. I'm, I do the pound my chest, make your move. If any of you Unleash the Power Within guys are out there, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm a huge Tony Robbins guy, and I really got into him probably around 2012. He came out with a book called Money Master the Game. If you want to actually like learn finances, people are probably like, Tony Robbins, like learn from finances? Yes, because he went around and interviewed like 30 of the most intelligent and successful financial minds around the world and wrote about their stories and learned everything. I took his book, this 600-page book, and devoured it like a textbook. And I just wrote everything down. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, investing, I like learned how to just invest in stocks and the stock market and, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and crap like that. I realized like, oh, buy assets, don't buy crap. And then when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I finished that book. I mean, it's such a fantastic book on how he tells his story about in his lessons about investing and investing in yourself and your financial future. And I finished that book and I told my wife, I said, honey, I finished that book in December of 2017. I said, honey, by the end of this year, December 2018, I said, we're going to have an investment property. I had an investment property 6 months later. And what I did is I had so much equity in my house, I just started asking questions. I started calling people, networking, asking people. And I said, I was like, how do you do this? And they're like, I'm glad you're asking the question. And they're like, did you know you can do this thing called a cash out refinance where you pull cash out of your house? And at the time I was like, whoa, that's scary. Like, I don't want to get a new loan on my house, like, and have this cash burden. Yeah, that was silly thinking, lesson learned. And I did that, pulled $75,000 of equity out of my house and bought my first investment property. It was a 3-unit in Greeley, Colorado. And I bought in Colorado at a really good time. I bought my house for $240,000 in 2013. When we moved in 2018, I sold it for $450,000. Do the math there. Made a ton of money there. And then I actually sold that investment property, bought it for $300,000, sold it for $365,000, got all of my equity back, plus made $65,000. Had to pay capital gains on that, but you get a good tax accountant and he knows how to play the game of taxes and investing. And so I turned around. I had 3 units, and then that was I started out with 3 units in June of 2016. Moved, sold my house, made a ton of money there, bought a duplex that we lived in Minnesota. I still own that. So I've got 2 units in Minnesota. Basically just took both of those and flipped them. Turned 3 units into probably like 30 units now. I've got 2 units in Minnesota still, and that basically it makes like almost $3,000 a month. That's net, but then minus I've got expenses, the loan that comes out of that, and but I probably make about $1,000 a month just on that property alone. and that's just 2 units. And then I've got another, how many units? I've got 19 units with a partner, Tom, down in Bay City, Michigan. And then I've got another 3 units of mine. So that's about 22 units. And then I have another 4 units in Lansing, Michigan. 26. I've got a place up in Calumet, Michigan, and then our place here. So I think I'm just under 30. It's like, 28.
And are you strategically targeting secondary addition like markets? Are you, because some people say, oh, you got to invest in Austin or these bigger markets, or are you seeking out these markets, or these just happen to be where you found the deals?
No, honestly, sometimes I think that some of these bigger markets, like you said, like people are like, oh, you got to invest in Austin. Like, you don't got to do that. I found these secondary markets because I'd initially, my partner and I, my other partner that I've got in Lansing, Michigan, he found 7 units and we paid $200,000 for all 7 units, a fourplex and a triplex. And this is kind of awesome. We actually just sold the triplex. We still have the fourplex. We sold the triplex for $165,000, got all of our initial investment back, plus $5,000 on top of our initial investment, and we still own the cash flowing building. I mean, I love, it's like real estate is fun. And especially once you get past that like fear of investing, you just kind of do these things. And
there's an inherent confidence, right? And like you have it in multifamily and those type of units. I have it in Airbnb. And when you can walk in and you don't flinch because you know what the vehicle can create, then that's when the machine starts picking up speed.
Yeah.
That's when, and I interviewed a guy yesterday who they've closed 1,760 units in like 8 months, right?
Jeez,
and
dude.
I told him, I said, it's regardless of the initial cash that you're making, everybody addresses you and knows you as a closer now. And so you're going to get massive deals. And I would imagine the same thing happened to you once you started closing on property.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I got a realtor down there and we actually just made, the market got a lot better. Like we could turn around and sell all of our properties down there and probably make 20, 30K on each one of them, which is great. Because we made an offer for this fourplex was listed at like $80,000. We made an offer at 75, said we'll go up to 80K. And our realtor's like, sorry, you didn't get it. The market's gotten a bit more competitive. And I'm like, wow, okay.
But also with you, and I want you to talk us through this because you are the official ask guy, because your financing is crazy, and you've done 30. It's not like you have some job where you're making $400K a year. Like no. You have got really creative, and I think that's because you dig in and ask every question. I've heard some crazy stories from you on how you're pulling money out of here and making it happen, and you're just making it happen, right?
Yes. What are the crazy stories? Like, I guess part of me is like, this is normal. Like you're moving money here, and pulling it here. And then I guess like, that's kind of what I learned, I guess, from just figuring out finances. And,
and I think that's something that's super important when I took my private equity job. I think that is the number one issue with investors and just the general public as a whole is that people don't know how money works. They have no idea. It's not taught. Like nobody knows. Like,
well, dude, okay. I mean, man, I don't know. I could go into the weeds on this, but like, dude, I mean, I've got so many bank accounts. I've got bank accounts all over the place and just investment accounts. And I'm like, if I wanted to go buy a house like tomorrow, I guarantee you I could just move money around someplace and make an offer on it. And I think that's one of the things that you've got to realize as an investor. There are so many options out here, and I don't want to go on a rant, but I'm like, dude, when people make the excuse of like, oh, I can't afford a home or I can't make this happen because like, no, dude, like there are so many options, and that's what you gotta do. You gotta start asking the question. Call a bank, just start calling every single bank, and you like ask, ask for a loan and they're going to ask you what your finances are. And if you understand finances, which again, do the research, do the math, like figure out how this stuff works. I always tell people, figure out how to play the game. And that's what money is. Money is a game. I mean, like I joke with my partners. I'm like, hey, we're playing a fun Monopoly game in real life here. And I don't know, people probably like will get mad at me, but that's all it really is. I mean, if you take this stuff so serious, but that's what you've got to do. You've just got to strategically move money around and know it. Like one of the things you can do, like if you got an investment account, if you got a 401k, an IRA, you can take that. You can take your IRA, your 401k, you can get a loan against your IRA and buy a property. Or you can do this thing called a self-directed IRA, where you basically, and this is amazing. This is an amazing thing. And I need to develop a system. If anybody's out there who can get me some self-directed IRA deals, I would like to do it. I've done it once and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. But I did a flip with a partner down in Texas, Sam, and I took my IRA, and you can basically take your IRA, fund the deal. They take the money, they do the deal, and they funnel it back into your IRA. And a self-directed IRA doesn't have any taxes associated with it because all it's looked at as is a fund transfer from like another IRA to this IRA. That's how the tax structure works. So, I did one of those, and there's just, you can go all sorts of ways with investing and figure out creative ways. So
yeah. And to hit on that point, I've got a friend of mine who's 24 years old down in San Antonio, who has 67 units. And he got his first deal he started when he was 17. He's got his first deal in contract 19. And he goes, I need to go raise $150,000. He goes, I had no idea how I was going to do it. He says, I just figured it out. But what I'm saying is, he's down in McAllen, Texas, buying apartment complexes and buying houses for like 40, 50, 60K. Like if you spent 2 years looking for a damn deal and you haven't, like, find a market that you can get into. And guess what? Regardless of how much cash flow you're making, you're learning the process that you can take to a bigger market.
Yeah. And dude, like the thing, like that's awesome. I mean, and that's exactly one of the things we did. I found a market where I bought 4 and 5 plexes for $80,000, $90,000. That's why I'm like, you don't have to buy these giant markets. People have that perception. And I mean, these places that we've got are 9 hours away from me. But to me, this is my level of comfortability. I'm like an engineer. I'm an operations guy. I like to get my hands on things. My first triplex that I got,
Your first triplex, you got what?
So my first triplex was, I mean, I like to get my hands on things, and some people are just like, hey, I just want to do the deal. But so my first triplex, I was like, okay, this thing's a half hour away from me. I know that in an emergency, I can make it over there. So I got something kind of, close to where I was living and relatively in my market. And that felt comfortable to me. I was like, okay. And I was the property manager. I did the things that needed to be done when things came up. And what I realized with it was like, wow, this isn't as bad as I thought. I would get a call. I had a couple crazy tenants, lots of stories from Maryland. But you get some crazy tenants, but I went and I took care of the stuff myself. And what I realized was like, oh, once you get this thing set up, it just kind of rolls. And I got really comfortable. I was like, all right, I know that I can just get a property manager and get these things away from me where I'm just the investor type. And that's pretty much the space that I'm in now with the majority of my investments. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where I was going with that, but that's just me. That's how I look at it. But yeah, like the guy you were talking about, I mean, he's like, holy crap. And it's like, once you get a handle on what your comfortability with, then you can go to the next level.
And he just, I can't share, but they just locked in a huge deal And he's like, we're just going to go figure it out. and here's the
dude.
deal. And here's the deal. You'll love this more than anything. You know how they got this deal? The guy didn't want to sell it to him. And he said, no, it's cool. We'll just help you clean up some stuff in your books. And we'll help do some suggestions on some operations for you for free. Don't even worry about it. We'll just help you. And then the guy was like, you know what? Do you want to just buy it? Like, that's how they get you. And it's massive, dude. It's not small.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, that's amazing. Like, and this dude, he reminds me of a young me. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but like, that is,
you just bring value, man. Bring value.
Well, yeah, but also it doesn't matter where he's not giving a crap that his units need to be in Austin, or he's like, guess what? People still need to live in McAllen, Texas. Like, it's all relative, right? And especially where we're headed to in this new world with Zoom and everything and people working from home, you need to check out those secondary markets. And if you spent 2 years and you can't get a deal, well, guess what? You can go to a third or second tier market and pick up 7 units for the price of one house. Like,
well, dude, and this is another thing that's happening. And I'm like, this is why I'm like, sweet, my Bay City units are increasing in price, because you're seeing a mass exodus out of cities. And I can't tell you how many people in Northern Michigan is based, like, I live in everybody's vacation space is where I live. There has been I can't believe how many people I've seen like come to this area, and I've talked to people. I'm like, I never knew this place existed. And I'm like, yeah, it's awesome up here. And they're like, how are the winters? I'm like, oh, they're terrible, but I'm comfortable with the winters. Like, I'll go take a dip in Lake Superior and do the Wim Hof thing in November when the lake is frozen. But a lot of people just don't like that. But that's one thing that I love about this area. And then this is also crazy. I just got into the Airbnb market for our place that we've got in Calumet. We started getting bookings. We listed this thing last month and got it all remodeled and everything. And like within having it listed for 8 hours, we had like 3 bookings like the first night. I'm like, holy crap. And then my wife was like, she's the one managing it. She's like, man, I got like 3 more bookings yesterday. And then she gets this thing and she's like, 64%, there's a 64% increase in bookings in your area for this year compared to last year. And it's because I'm like, dude, people are getting out of cities and they're going and visiting places. And I'm like, sweet, got an Airbnb market right on time.
Dude, I just went to Tahoe, and yeah, it's Tahoe, but they said that since June 26th, when they reopened, it's been a 4th of July every day. And people are just tired of it. And now, Twitter, Facebook, they're saying you can work from home for the rest of your life. So why the hell would you pay $4,500 a month to live in San Francisco when you can live in Northern Michigan, work from your laptop, and pay $1,000, $900, $800? And I think that's what we're going to see over time. And you just have to kind of like figure it out. And so let's talk about, this new adventure that I didn't even know about till the other day. Let's talk about this new adventure into cannabis entrepreneur.
Okay. Well, and one of the other things I was going to say about investing, and I don't want to skip over this one, is like my partner that I've got in Bay City, we're now looking into laundromats and like looking in the Atlanta market. And that's the thing, is like, you got to get good partnerships, but we haven't landed one yet, but that's where we're trying to get some stuff under contract and finding those in the right market.
And is that for the building asset, or is that for the generated revenue from the laundromat?
It could be both, because some places you get the building with it, and other places you just buy the business. But that's what we're looking at. Like, these things are little cash machines. I mean, from the numbers. And I've got an operator partner down there, and then 2 investor guys that are just, trying.
You'll love this. In my 38 years of being on this earth, now that I'm traveling full time, I've used the laundromat 3 times in the last 3 weeks. Dude, and here's the deal. What? And I know which ones are good and which ones are bad already. Like,
I'll have to get some bet. We'll have to get on a call later. I'll get some more insight from you.
Yeah,
but this one was funny. So my wife was like, we started looking in the laundromats, and my wife does this. She's like, what? You're looking in the laundromats? And she goes, who uses laundromats? I'm
okay,
like,
look, I'm going to give you your first tip. You ready? I'm going to give you your first tip. Create an app and I guarantee it might be out there if you hadn't created it. Create an app that sends you a notification text message when your clothes are done.
Okay. All right. Another side business idea. This is what you get when you start talking with different entrepreneurs. I love it. Yeah. So that's another venture. But so back to the other one. So the cannabis. In 2018, cannabis became legal in Michigan, and it was kind of interesting. I mean, dude, so this is kind of funny. I work for my mother-in-law, who is the president of this Class C grow in northern Michigan, which in an industry, when I first, and I was living out in Colorado in 2014 when they passed this, and I saw what happened out there in Colorado and how this thing went and the entire industry blew up. I was like, holy crap, like, how do I get invested? How do I get involved with this? It was always like on the back of my mind. And then we moved to northern Michigan, and my mother-in-law is a plant scientist. She's a botanist. She's got her mastery in forestry. She's super smart. And she was growing weed. And in Michigan, when they passed it in 2018, you could do a caregiver. So she was growing a ton of plants, being a caregiver. And she found some business partners, and it just built into this thing. And now we have probably a 25,000 square foot grow space, which I got to be at probably in about an hour. And we're growing tons of plants out there. And we are in the whole northern Michigan market. We are building out dispensaries, and that's where I was yesterday, working on, putting up drywall. There's another part to a good part to multifamily investing and real estate investing is you learn how to build things. You figure it out and you learn how to redo plumbing, how to put up drywall, everything on the list. You better figure out how to do it. And I've done that. And so again, another piece that I can bring to it's a small business starting up is, I'm helping our team like build out the dispensary, hanging drywall, building cabinets, painting, yada, yada, yada. And so that's the space we're in. I've got like a full-time gig with it, but I don't know. It's super exciting. There's a lot of business opportunities with it. I'm kind of bummed I wasn't. Whatever. It's a super cool opportunity. I'm not a direct investor with it, but my mother-in-law is, and she owns the company. And I figure that has its perks. And the way that I see this is I'm continuing to talk to people who want to get into this industry, because one of the things that I've been forced to do is understand all of the laws and regulations about this. Understand all the logistics about this. I'm working with plants now, like marijuana plants. I'm figuring out how all of them grow, all of the science behind that. And I was talking to my mother-in-law yesterday. I report directly to her. I said, listen, I'm just trying to figure this whole business out, every aspect. And she's like, good, because there's going to be opportunities with it. And you're going to be one of the key people that we look to as we grow our business. So I don't know. It's just like, it's kind of funny, from the start of our conversation, kind of wrapping this around, I look at the space that I'm in right now and I'm like, dude, it's not like right. Back to the thing. It's like, it's not like I never yell at my kids and never fight with my wife and never get in a negative headspace in my head, because it happens on a daily basis. Everything isn't always as it seems. And I'm trying to paint the picture of this reality. I live in a beautiful place. I'm, working in an industry that has amazing potential. I've got these side investments, and I look at it, and I was thinking about this morning. I woke up this morning, and I remember when I was I just had a full-time job. I was making, $80,000-$90,000. And I remember getting out of my bed, and I would wake up and I'd be like, fuck, like, I'm going to go to this job. And I think this is the thing that, and I every morning this would happen to me. I get like super introspective, and I would instantly go 30 years down the road every morning that I used to wake up. And I thought to myself, 5-6 years ago when I was just working that full-time job, I said, 30, 40 years from now, is this all you is this all you're going to do? Is this all you're going to have? And I just was like, I got tired of it. And I started consuming the books and making the changes. And, like I said, I can look back at my journal, my pictures 5 years ago, and I'm like, damn, dude, like, good job. Like, you took the steps to kind of get to a different place.
You know what it is from somebody that knows you and can see the difference in the story that you're painting is that now your life is full of possibilities of growth.
Oh, yeah.
And there's nothing, and you're excited about the growth and you don't know where it's going to go, but there's growth and there's learning. Mm-hmm. And before there was not, it was a roadblock of something that you had to do within a system that needed to get done, regardless if it's you in that system or somebody else.
Right.
Now you control the system and the growth is on you. And that's all we're looking for in this life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it is like, I just would encourage people. It's like, you're looking, and this is me. I mean, some people just want to stay in that place. I mean, I know lots of people that are just comfortable in that space, and I meet them. I'm like, have fun there. Like, that's not my space. Mm-hmm. And,
I wouldn't have a coaching business if those people were not in those spaces.
This is true.
Because all I want to do, and this is where people get it messed up. And I just had this talk with Mike Sorgan yesterday. This is where people get it messed up. You think that when I talk to you about Airbnbs, I say that you have to have 100. No. If you're cleaning it yourself and you're handling it yourself, you could have 4 and retire within like a year.
Yeah.
Like, that's where people get it wrong. Why do you need to make $300,000 a year? What if you made $80,000 a year and you got to go to every one of your kids' soccer games and you like controlled your schedule? Like, that's all.
Dude, that's the place I was at, like in Minnesota. I was like, why am I doing this? Like, it was for a paycheck, and it was scary. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this. And I did, like, I had a coach, and, I really thank him. He helped me get to a new place, but he was like, why do you have to stay there? I'm like, well, because I need this money. And he's like, well, you're fucking miserable doing this. And I was like, shit.
Yeah.
And
what people don't get is that if you've got a great job and you're looking for a way out, I'm not saying go tell your boss to shove it in as you know what tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But what we're talking about is setting a plan in place, right? And you know my story, and it hasn't. I was talking to my coach yesterday. It hasn't been roses by any stretch of the imagination.
No, you don't get roses.
But hear me out. It's been a weird 4 months, like divorce, laid off, all that stuff, and screwed over many a times, and opportunities didn't come out, and it doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is, because I've created a new mindset shift for myself, that the spirals don't happen. Like, if I'm in a negative space, I can get out of it in 30 minutes or like get out of it in an hour. And that's, nobody's going to be perfect. Nobody.
Right.
But what you're doing is you're laying the foundation for those things to not attach themselves to you and then move on with your day. And that's what doing the work is. That's what doing the personal development is. That's what looking at yourself in the mirror and going, do you really want this? Like, is this for you or is this for somebody else? And that's my biggest, like, soapbox is, like, just make sure it's for you. I don't care what it is,
dude. Yeah. And I was listening to, like, your Wednesday rant. It was spot on. And how you're like, dude, go, man. And you were right. Like, if you were like 22, 23, like, and you think you got to like go to college and do all the stuff, like, you don't, you can, but like, and this was a thing too, like, right. It doesn't matter. Go enjoy your life, because the world's going to keep on spinning. People are going to keep creating problems and keep creating stuff. And when you come back, like, they'll create new problems. And it's so funny. And like, I'll give you a little story about this. Like, this was a realization, and it's like going through the process, and you have so many realizations, so many things along the way. But when I was moving away from Colorado, and I had a great job, like, I think people were probably like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you quitting? And it was an executive director. I reported, and I worked for the public education industry, and I'm no more, like, just I could never go back to that place, but I had a 100K plus job, you know, working as an executive director. And I was like, I'm moving, I'm not going to do this anymore. And people were like, what? And I remember when I was getting ready to resign, my last couple of days, they'd already found a replacement. And it was like, they had moved on. And I was just like, wow, like my time and dedication here was very important. No, they just moved on. They find somebody else. And that is like any place. And that's why the realization to create something for yourself.
I've had two. It's really odd, and it's weird the stupid things I get joy out of. But I've got an assistant that works for me and my podcast producer. And are you ready for this? You want to talk about, dude, put $1 million on it and you still wouldn't beat this feeling. I've had their wives reach out to me and be like, dude, he's a different person. Like, he's super happy working for you. Like, thank you for the opportunity. And I'm like, oh, mother of God. like I'm like, and he has a baby and he's like a better father and like he's sober because like he saw me get sober. And I'm like, oh, like, and we didn't even talk about him getting sober. Like,
that fills you up.
1,000%. And I had a talk with my coach yesterday, and you'll love this. And he doesn't mince words. So he's probably the person that can get in my kitchen the most. He said, hey, dude, you were a drug addict and a fucking alcoholic for like 22 fucking years. He's like, you've been sober for like 1.5 years and you've been on personal development for 2.5 years. Where are you trying to get? He goes, you're just getting started. He goes, but what you're not going to do is you're not going to get off the path. You're going to keep walking. Cause I told him, I said, what are the options? Is it to go be a perfume salesman at Abercrombie and French? Like, what's the options? This is what the path I've chosen. Yeah. And this is what it is. But he doesn't know where he heard it. He doesn't remember the guy that said it, but he has the greatest analogy ever, what entrepreneurship is. He said, I'll give you the short version. He says, you sit down for dinner, and he says they pull up a bowl, and in the bowl is a pile of shit. He said, you eat all the shit. He said, you eat it, you get your last bite. He goes, oh man, great, I was done. He goes, great, here's another bowl of shit. And they just keep it. But here's the deal, and I think this is super important because I talked to the guy who works, 60, 80, 70 hours a week. They've got 3,000 units. He says, it's hard work, but when my daughter has a soccer game, guess what? I'm not asking my boss to get off of work because I'm making my schedule. Right. And I'm not everybody's an entrepreneur. But what I'm saying to you is if that you can go and create the space where you're amazing at spreadsheets or you're amazing at underwriting a deal, and you can go work with an investor like Matt or myself, and they can respect the qualities that you bring to the company, and they can give you the freedom to be yourself. That's what you're after. Yeah. That's what's the juice.
Dude, yeah, you're spotted. That's so funny. Here's another bowl of shit. And you got to go through that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. And I mean, yeah, I feel like, I think that's exactly what I was after. Like getting to that space of having my thing, but then still being able to live my life properly. And dude, it's great. Like one of the great things about having your mother-in-law, working for your mother-in-law, is she knows what it's like having kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hey, can I go, do you mind if I cut out and run to my daughter's swim lesson? She's like, yeah, go ahead. And I mean, it's like today, I'm like, hey, I can be honest with her about what I've got going on in life. I'm like, hey, I've got this podcast interview. I want to come in a little late.
And more importantly, by being honest with her, you're being honest with yourself about what you need. Mm-hmm. And I think I think people play down what they need. Like, dude, the hardest thing I've ever done, you know me, I want to talk to everybody. I want to connect with everybody. Mm-hmm. I've gotten a space now where if I'm not in the right headspace or I'm not feeling it, I'll push the call. And it's not even about pushing the call like I disrespect that person's time. I want to make sure that when I show up to that call, that I'm present and in the best state to receive and give back the information that is needed. And what you're doing is you're you're creating the space for what you need instead of what you think you need. And I know that's like a little woo-hoo, but you're basically telling the universe that I want to make sure that each of these moments are not wasted because I'm just trying to get through the call instead of be present for this human, you know.
You hit on something right now. Right now, we should talk about this for a few minutes. Is like you're spot on, and I don't think a lot of people talk about this. And definitely, like, you need this in the workspace. You need this right now with this conversation. And I think a lot of people don't pay attention to it. And the thing I'm talking about is energy. And exactly what you just said, like, you need to be focused. And it's not just focus. I don't even know the words to use, but I was thinking about this last night. I was like, one of the things I want to try and figure out how to talk to in my conversation with Austin is energy. And I feel like this is a good transition because I realized this, like, going to Tony Robbins, like being part of these mastermind groups, even with my partnerships, dude, like the people that I talk to, I'm like, dude, if they're not on my wavelength, on my energy path, and I can feel that, or I can't feel that. If I can feel that, I'm like, I want to talk to this person. I want to get to know this person more. And you and I have definitely done that. I've done it with my close business partners. I mean, my wife, dude, like, it's funny. Like, my mother-in-law, I can't tell you how many lessons I've learned from my mother-in-law. Like, people will laugh, but I've learned about, like, energy and feeling and, like, some deep emotions about stuff from my mother-in-law. Kind of goofy, but it's like when you find people that you resonate with, and if I can encourage anybody to do a little bit more kind of deeper understanding, look at this stuff with energy on how you feel. And that feeling that you get with talking to people, there's something to that. If it doesn't feel right, exactly what you just said. If you're just not feeling that call and you want to push the call, like, it just, I mean, there's probably something to that, and you might want to listen to that. And I've had some hard lessons with that, and I know you have too.
Yeah, and more importantly, like, Sal said something to me. He's like, I want you to look at the videos of Tony Robbins speaking. He's always from here, and his chin's up. If you notice somebody that's going through something or they're feeling bad about themselves, their chin's down. Yeah. And what I've learned through training on coaching is that you have to lift up your counterpart. And they said this, true story, that 90% of coaching and getting somebody to change is you as a person that's sitting across from them believes that they will change. That's it. And there's no chance. And I love this quote. There's no chance that you can be sad and happy at the same time and moving. You can't do it. And we have a rule, the investors in Arizona. I dare you, as a human, you could be having the worst day ever. I dare you to get on a jet ski and not smile. You can't do it. You can't do it. It's a metaphor for life. It's a metaphor for life. Because if you look, my energy has gotten me in conversations in rooms that I should never be a part of, but it got me in the door. And what I had to do, though, super important, is I had to shed the Tasmanian devil version of myself who was destructive. And I had to set in a mode of confidence and understanding abundance. And that created and attract the right type of investors. Because if you're all over the place, that's going to attract scammers or people trying to take advantage of you. And so your energy and how you move through this world is so important, because I have downplayed who I am. But dude, like, you'll love it. My friend had the best quote about me ever. She goes, "Who is Austin Linney? He's the embodiment of actual fire." Like, this dude is like fire. And here's what's funny though. I found out that my sign like means fire, like my thing. And so, like, that's me. Like, I red hair and you know, fucking crazy as shit. But like, it's cool because, like, a perfect example. I was moving to Arizona and I got a nasty flat. I mean, really bad flat, like almost pretty scary, like in the middle of nowhere. And the guy was like, "Well, I'll be there in like 2 hours." And it was hot. And I was like, son of a bitch. What I did is I put on my cowboy hat and I started dancing to country music on the side of the highway.
I guess I'm here to help you.
And I'm sure I'm sure people were driving by going, this dude's out of his fucking mind. But what I'm saying is I was trying to shift the mood because I was upset and I was tired. I had not slept all night. I drove through the night. And it was amazing. When he showed up, we were BSing and had a good time. And, that's what I tell everybody. Like, if you're having a bad day, or like, turn on some, I don't care, turn on some NSYNC, get weird. It doesn't matter, but you're shifting the energy in your body.
You get to a different state. And dude, like I love it. That's like one of the Tony Robbins things that I got out of Tony Robbins and going to the events is like, he does this thing where, you get to this beautiful space and he's like, make your move. And like, dude, you probably have seen me doing it where I like make this move. And when we're on our calls and like what that does is this movement and what's it called? The triad is where your focus goes, where your language is, and your focus, your language, and your physiology. And you change those three things about any situation in your life, and the entire situation, your life changes. If you change your focus, you change your physiology, and you change your language. And that's like another one that I wanted to talk about today. I mean, I don't know, we can kind of like finish up with it. It's just like, it's when you, again, like surrounding yourself with the right people, like you and I feel like my conversations with people are so much about growth and so much about like, where's the opportunity? Where's the, what are you doing? What's a good in your life? What book are you reading? And I just feel like, again, like, to your listeners, if there's anything I can provide, it's like, dude, like find that goodness of people in your life that you can resonate with and like surround yourself with them. And yeah, I don't know. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you.
I know. And I was thinking to myself right now, and I knew it was going to be good, but like the reason I started the podcast, and some guy mentioned it yesterday, is like for conversations like this. And guys, this is the conversation that we would have on the phone separate from us being on a podcast. And that's what I want to get across is that.
It's true. That's true. That's so good.
And what I'm trying to get to everybody is everybody's so focused on real estate. And yes, it's a vehicle. But me and my mentors, and when me and Matt talk or me and Tom talk, we rarely talk real estate. Like that's for separate conversation.
It's like, hey, let's get the business. I like some calls. I'm like, hey, let's just get the business. Yeah.
And so, it's one of those things where like, this is why I appreciate this forum, because I know we'll do it and we'll revisit it a year from now. We'll have another conversation and it'll be documented. And it's funny. I had a conversation with a buddy who's a huge marketing guy the other day, and I didn't record it. And I was like, damn, I'm going to start recording all my conversations because there's gold in all that stuff, right? I just have to let him know beforehand. But yeah, dude, I just appreciate you. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, how do they track you down?
Gosh, I mean, so I don't know. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I probably like Instagram. The Investor Dad Matt page is always where I post stuff, and I don't know. I post lots of stuff about my investments, my kids, my political beliefs are on there. I hope that's okay. And then I put on Facebook, and I don't know. Yeah, if you want to reach out, just text or email. So yeah, I don't know. All that's good ways to connect.
No, I appreciate it, my brother. And then guys, if you like this episode, make sure you share it with your friends, send it around. And we thank y'all so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Appreciate you, brother.
You got it, my man.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.